will never be defeated. Tenants united will never be defeated. Tenants united will never be defeated.
Hi, I'm Kristal Hart, and we are here at City Hall in New York City, where local politicians address the fact that in June, your rent stabilization and control laws will expire. And what does this mean to you and New York City?
Welcome, everybody. We want to also take this opportunity to welcome our brothers and sisters from the labor movement who were outside marching. They joined. You know, working class people, we're joined at the hip, particularly during this very difficult year. And whether it's budget cut or the rent laws, we're going to be fighting together.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. This is an important year because over 1 million households, over 1 million units of housing that have families there. So if you translate 1 unit of housing to perhaps 3 New Yorkers, you are talking potentially 3-4 million people. You may be talking about half of this city. So this year, we have the great responsibility to renew the rent stabilization laws, which are due to expire June 15th. Now, in this year, where everybody is being asked to tighten their belts because of the economic conditions facing this city and this nation, where government and the executives have pledged not to approve any revenues, any taxes on the rich, not to approve any taxes on corporate America, because they're scared that they're going to flee to Idaho. I don't think there's a Lincoln Center in Idaho for opera buffs. But this year, some members of government have pledged not to impose taxes on the wealthiest among us. Those that have benefited from the bonanza that almost crippled us. Yet, those same folks want to impose a greater hardship on working class New Yorkers by weakening rent laws. Some even go as far as saying that the market must be deregulated, that there shouldn't be any rent stabilization, that Adam Smith, hidden hand, should rule the market, and that the tenant demand on the market should establish the rent. We are diametrically opposed to that.
That's right.
We are dramatically and radically opposed to that. We feel that over millions of New Yorkers that live in rent-stabilized apartments that are an integral part of the fabric of the city, that are the labor force of the city, that are the ones that are contributing the most to the stability of this economy of the city, should have fair rents, and rent stabilization should be renewed, strengthening tenant protection.
Make it stronger.
We need to make it stronger. And I will go further and say that this initiative should be intricately connected with the budget process. That if tenants don't get what they deserve, we should not pass a budget.
That's right.
We will
That's
stop
right.
the budget if tenants are not protected this year. So I have introduced a piece of legislation, Senate Bill 2783, which proposes the following: a repeal of vacancy destabilization and re-regulates most of the apartments that have been lost through this loophole in the last 10, 15 years. We have lost approximately over 300,000 units because of the weakening and the watering down of rent laws. In addition to that, we want to make sure that Mitchell-Lama rentals and Section 8 buildings are under rent stabilization laws. We also want to reduce the vacancy bonus given to landlords from 20% to 10%. We want to reduce that.
That's right.
We want to reform preferential rent. Preferential rent is a bamboozled way of tricking tenants to think that they're going to pay a certain level of rent, and when they renew their lease, they find out that the rent has been up dramatically and they're forced out of apartments. In addition to that, the major capital improvement provision. You know that a landlord renews your boiler, installs a new boiler, fixes your roof, puts in new window or an intercom system, and they increase your rent in perpetuity. We want to change that. They may be able to get some of that money back, but once they recover that investment back, they should get zero. They should get zero on that. And that's what we're going with that. We also want to reform the individual apartment improvement program by reducing the monthly rental increase from 1/40th to 1/60th of the cost of improvement. That turns into being hundreds of millions of dollars in benefits for landlords, and the rent being pushed up closer to $2,000 threshold to deregulate the apartment. We also want to make sure that finally, that this legislation, that this jurisdiction comes to the city of New York by repealing the Erstat law.
Yeah.
We feel
Right.
that this is a real New York City issue, that we want the city council and the city to have jurisdiction of it, so we are supporting the repeal of the Erstat law. Estamos aquí para defender los inquilinos. Este es un año importantísimo donde vamos a renovar las leyes de estabilización de renta, donde le pedimos al gobierno que aprueben leyes que sean protectivas de los derechos de los inquilinos. Governor Cuomo is aware of both bills in the Assembly and the bill that I've introduced. Governor Cuomo, I think, is leaning towards keeping it in the budget, and we want him to keep it in the budget.
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 I'm Kristal Hart reporting from City Hall.
Keep it in the budget.